Cobra build series, where this is essentially the finale. So let's get into it. Oh yeah, all right, she's a ripper. So this is going to serve as a recap for the entire series. As much as I would love if you guys watched every single episode, this will basically sum it all up into one final episode with a lot of driving, because I haven't given you guys a lot of driving impressions on this car, especially since I've modified it. I did do a full driving review on the Straight Pipes, my other channel, with my co-host Yuri, in the conditions that I bought it. So this is going to be a before and after and all the modifications that I did, and if I would recommend doing them, because, spoiler alert, here's the top 5 secrets of Cobra builds. The things that I did are not revolutionary. I basically replicated the traditional formula for a Terminator Cobra build. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel here. Speaking of wheels, man, these wheels look really good. I will get to that a little bit later, but first of all, I do want to talk about the addition of horsepower, and if you see me looking in the rear view mirror, that's because I've got a 360 camera on the back, and I want to make sure it's still there at the end of this video. So yeah, we've got extra horsepower now with this 2.8-inch Steeda pulley, and we also have the snub idler and the Gates belt, and this thing absolutely just screams now. I love driving this with this JLT intake up front. We got the Bassani catted X-pipe and the Borla Stinger or S-type exhaust. This car sounds perfect now. I'm gonna roll down the window and give you guys a little bit more intake and a little bit more crackles, because there's a lot of crackles on decel. I really like hearing it. Here we go. And it's like authentic crackles. It's not programmed in. That's just extra fuel just being dumped in. Not because I asked Joe D'Souza to add some crackles and pops. That's just how these sound. Like, these Borlas they just bring it out in these Cobras. I love it. That's why I wanted this exhaust so badly. And driving through these little turns out here with my Maximum Motorsports coilovers, the Continental Extreme Contact Sport 02 tires, it handles so nicely out here. It's so much better than when I initially bought it. The stock suspension was so floaty, it looked like a monster truck. The tires, oh my goodness, driving on whatever it was, 15-year-old or 20-year-old tires, they still had tread on them, but they were all seasons. No. Don't do that. Drive on a good set of nice summer tires and upgrade your suspension while you're at it. Speaking of the suspension, it is really nice. It's a little bit like, not, I guess, floaty, but a little bit soft, and I did go for the softest spring rates, probably against Maximum Motorsports recommendation, but I wanted this car to be really comfortable. That was my primary objective, because I want to take my son, who's 3 years old, in the car seat, in the back, take him to car shows. I want to take my wife in here. I don't want her to hate this car, because I have other cars that I've ruined in the past with going way too stiff on coilovers and suspension and things like that. But this is perfect. It handles so nicely out here. It's just super fun to rip on these roads. And man, that supercharger whine. So all the mods that I've done to this in terms of the general maintenance as well, everything has really helped bring this Cobra back to life, because it was taken care of. I do have a lot of receipts for it, but it needed a little bit of extra help. Always maintain your cars. That's the #1 thing to do. Replace all of your fluids, as I did, and I'm just gonna pull a UE right here and go right back the same way, because it's a fun road to drive on. Let's see if I can make this. This car is so low now that I gotta watch everything. And yeah, I did lower it considerably, and you don't have to do that, but it just gives the perfect stance. All right, let's rip it. Okay, what was I saying before? Yeah, so I don't want to ruin the suspension or anything like that by making it too stiff. This thing handles great out here. I can raise it a little bit if I really wanted to, but Ivan has dialed in the alignment at Ivan's Auto Service. If you need an alignment, go see him. And I do have to give a big shout out to all the mechanics that have worked on this. I've assembled an arsenal of the best mechanics and everyone that I can get to work on this thing. So big shout out to Ben at Dixie Blue Service for doing all the general maintenance and all the installs on all the parts that I got from Summit Racing, Borla Exhaust, and Maximum Motorsports, who I also got Ivan to install at Ivan's Auto Service. If you need alignments, go there. And if you need tuning, Joe D'Souza Performance, he killed it. He did it so well on my Fox body, so I had to go back to him when I got my Cobra. So the initial dyno results at the beginning of the series as I bought it, it made 436 horsepower to the rear wheels on a Mustang dyno, and we don't know the status of the tune. I did not run an air-fuel ratio gauge or anything like that with the wideband to know if it was tuned within an inch of its life, and it was running, I think, quite rich at the time. It was shooting a little bit of black smoke out the back, so Joe was taking care of all that, and this new tune is so much better. It picked up quite a bit of torque, and I think a lot of that was also due to the pulley, because going down to 2.8 pulley has really helped with that as well. And against Joe's advice, I have left the cover off on the intake so that we get a lot of supercharger whine today, because that's my favorite part. This car sounds so good. The whole thing with Terminator Cobras is about how they sound. The intake, the supercharger, that's what I wanted out of this. I don't need a 700 horsepower build. I already have that with a C6 Z06 that's naturally aspirated. I just wanted blower whine. And I know there are options. Maybe I will explore down the road with Kenny Bells and Whipples and VMP blowers, all that kind of stuff. But for now, I want to keep this reasonable, very reasonable. I just want to go to car shows, cruise around with my son who loves this car, and just enjoy my time with it as I'm doing right now. Because what I've done basically in this build is take the Cobra to the upper level of where it should be and kind of max out all the stock things that you can without going overboard, which means my injectors are still stock. I didn't have to upgrade those because the fuel system can handle it. It is a returnless system, so it's a little bit tricky, and if you want to go beyond what I've done, you should probably address the fuel system, which is a whole new can of worms that I don't want to go down. The fuel pump as well. I'm basically at, like, I would say 75 to 80% of the duty cycle, I think, for the injectors and the fuel pump, which is kind of, you know, the upper limit of where you want to be. You don't want to be sitting at like 90% or 95, like really, really maxing this out, because then you should probably just upgrade it. But with everything I've done, this should be reliable for basically the end of time. And I've got 163,000 kilometers on this now, which is over 100,000 miles. I'm sure a lot of that was modified by the previous owner, but I should be enjoying the next 100 or 200,000. Let's get this thing to be one of the highest mileage Cobras on, well, it wouldn't be on planet Earth because I'm sure someone's much higher than this, but I just love driving this thing. Let's get to the looks that I've also addressed. We've got these LMR 18-inch Cobra replicas. I think they are the perfect wheel choice for this car. Maybe I will explore other options in the future, but again, I'm not here to reinvent the wheel, because the other option I was kind of thinking about was, well, I don't know, maybe something classic like a CCW Classic, but right now I'm really good with these ones. So this car is just so fun to drive. I think it's honestly now my favorite car in my garage. Yes, I still have the E55 wagon that is so nice for dailying. It is automatic as well, which, you know, makes it a little bit boring. It does have probably the same amount of horsepower as this now, and they are both the original Hellcats because they're the OGs of the big blower on top, the whine. Well, even though the Mercedes doesn't really have that, but they both came out at the exact same time in 2003 for the sedan version, and yeah, I have the wagon, which came out a little bit later, but man, the Hellcat formula before the Hellcat, that's the way to do it. And you can pick these things up for a reasonable price still, both the E55 especially and these. And I did get mine for really cheap. I know some of you will argue against that being really cheap, but honestly, it is cheap what I paid. Maybe some of you in your area can get them cheaper, but trust me, in Canada, you cannot find these for what I paid for this, which just go watch the first video and you'll see all the details about how I got this, what the condition it was in, and how much I paid for it. But I think that's it. I just want to give a huge shout out to all the sponsors who've provided parts for this car. You've completely transformed this car into the Cobra of my dreams. This is so fun to drive, so like amazing to look at. It gets so much respect. It's just, everyone stares at this thing now, more so than even my yellow Corvette, which I kind of didn't really expect because it's a yellow Corvette. But I mean, this thing with these wheels and the stance and everything, it just, oh, what a great car. Thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. I'd love it if you subscribed, because I don't know what I'm doing next, but for now I'm having a lot of fun doing this. Maybe I'll do some other videos on it. Maybe I'll do some comparisons with my other cars, and maybe I'll modify it in the future. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you at the next one.